deep in the heart of Texas.
We're in the business of winning.
Don't bet against me.
I don't bet anyway.
Lose your life.
Hello, everyone. Michael Jordan fans are the best, and today we're going to be talking about if Michael Jordan would be as good in the modern NBA as he was back when he was playing in the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s. First, before we get into that, NMB Sports Nick and Rex, welcome. How are you guys doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Absolutely. So first, let's just dive right into it. And we'll start with you, Nick, because you have said that Michael Jordan is the objective GOAT before. How much better do you think he would do in today's NBA, without getting into specifics, versus or how well would he do in comparison? How many rings would he win? Just give me just a general synopsis of how well do you think he would do in today's NBA?
Well, I like to start with the points per game kind of statistical analysis. I know it's bean counting, right, and stats aren't everything, but I was looking at pace of play. I believe from about Jordan's time to today, there's been maybe an increase of like 5, 6, 7 shots throughout the years. If you assume Jordan maybe gets 3 to 5 more shots a game with his 30-point per game average, I don't think it's crazy to think that maybe a year or two here and there that Jordan could have averaged 40 points. I mean, tons of guys, you look at the top scorers in today's league, they're all averaging over 30 points, right? Last year, I think there was 5 or 6 guys who averaged over 30, which is pretty remarkable from just a historic standpoint. I know pace of play has gone up, defense isn't quite what it was, etc. But I do like the argument that I do think Jordan, for maybe a year or two here or there, I do think Jordan could have averaged 40. I don't think it's crazy to think that if he's taking, the majority of the shots, so let's just say 6 or 7 shots, maybe he gets 4 or 5 of those. If he makes, let's just say 3 or 4 more baskets, that 30 gets up to 40 pretty quick. I think it's interesting to think that Jordan probably could have averaged 40 at some point in today's league. 50, I think that's a little much, but 40 I think is maybe reasonable in the ballpark. That's kind of where I start.
Rex, do you think that Michael Jordan could average 40 points per game in the modern NBA?
Once.
One season?
Rule changes. No one ever does that, and then the league stands pat. The league changes rules because they don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why no one's done it except for Wilt. And after Wilt did it a few years in a row, they came in with sweeping changes. They widened the lane. They made the offensive goaltending rule, the basket interference rule. They changed defensive rules to stop that from happening. They don't want that. They want 5 guys averaging 30. They don't want 1 guy averaging 40. That takes the limelight away from everyone else. And that's not what the league wants. So it would happen once, and I believe he could do it once, and then they'd start changing rules.
So why specifically do you think that they don't want somebody to dominate the league in the likes of what you're saying with how Wilt Chamberlain did? Why do you think they don't want that guy being able to average over 40 points per game? And Wilt Chamberlain obviously averaged over 50 points per game. Why do you think they don't want that?
Well, no, and actually we don't even have to go to Wilt Chamberlain. We can go to Harden. James Harden averaged, what was it, 36?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, he averaged like 36, 37. Almost got to what Jordan had averaged in 87. And then what happened? They start calling everything on James Harden. Remember how he was getting away with that shuffle at the three-point line, that sideways shuffle, and he was just scoring.
Yeah.
And he got up 36 points a game, and they cut it. Mm-hmm. Now they start whistling him for it all the time because they don't want it. because it takes. You can't sit there and market saying today's athletes are the greatest ever. Our players today are the greatest ever. Our league today is the greatest ever. And then you got one guy making everyone else look like high school guys in the scoring column. That goes against what you're trying to advertise. You can't advertise parity and then have one guy just doing 25 to 33% more than everyone else. That flies right in the face of your marketing plan.
Mm-hmm. So Dirty South is here. Welcome, Dirty South. He says, Jordan mastered the fadeaway jump shot. He would have mastered a three-point jump shot if he had to. What do you all think about that aspect? We'll start with you first, Nick. Do you think that if it was as focused on as it is nowadays, that Jordan would have been a better three-point shooter than he was typically?
Yeah, because this follows my era's argument, and that is, if Jerry West played today, right, he would dribble like the guys today. He would play in the style of today. That's just, unfortunately, that's just how it is. If you grow up in different eras, play styles, different pace of play. I don't think there's much that. I don't think Jerry West would be like, well, I want to play like the guys in the 70s if he grew up today, right? He'd have to adapt, and he'd still be good, right? He'd still be great. So yeah, I do think Jordan would probably shoot 3 to 5 threes a game, if not more, right? So that also goes into it. That probably bumps his average up a little more too. And to what Rex said, I do largely agree. I think it's a little bit more of like contrarian, right? Like with Jokic winning 2, you could just feel they didn't want to give him 3 in a row, right? I think sometimes that does plague all sports a little bit, right? If one guy's too dominant, they just want to spread it around, right? Because whether right or wrong, they want to give some other guys credit, let them share in the limelight, etc. In terms of changing the rules, though, for Jordan, my biggest knock on Harden was always he's a little two-dimensional for me. He's either all the way to the hole or step back 3. I think Jordan has a little bit of a higher basketball IQ and a little bit of a more well-rounded game. So I'm not sure how much they could do. I'm sure they might tweak some stuff here or there, but I think Jordan would still be able to get essentially whatever he wanted. He'd probably be even a better 3-level scorer in today's game. I never really bought into the whole Jordan can't shoot thing. He shot 1 or 2 a game. Like, that was just what it was. A lot of those are probably heaves at the end of a quarter sometimes, right? You got to take that into account a little bit. Like second shots at the end of a quarter or half, things like that. So I definitely think he'd be a better 3-point shooter. I don't think there's really any doubt about that. Again, he would play in today's style, and I think today's style would demand, if we want to space the floor, open things up, I think he would definitely shoot probably 3 to 5 threes at least in today's era.
What do you say about that, Rex? You think he would have adjusted his game to lean, I don't want to say lean exactly, but focus more on the three-pointer than he did during his career? And do you think that would have affected his points per game enough to what I believe Nick is trying to say to counter your argument that he couldn't have gotten 40 points per game, multiply?
No. Jordan wouldn't have changed his game for this era because he played how he played, and he dominated how he played, and he'd dominate today playing how he played.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan's natural advantage was in his first step and his athletic ability.
Yeah.
Pulling up from 25 feet, he's playing to the defense. He's doing what the defense wants. He's voluntarily taking away his natural advantage. He's not going to do that. He's not going to do that. He's going to attack the basket. He's going to get the free throws. He's going to get the dunks. He's going to hit the fadeaways. All you got to do is look at Jimmy Butler.
Mm-hmm.
Closest thing that we have. All right.
Related.
That remark. Mid-sized player. He's an all-star. Right? He's an all-star. Mid-sized player. He shoots the same amount of threes as Jordan did. He plays Jordan style ball today. He's a mid-range player. He's not a 3 shooter. He shoots today, in today's game, he's an all-star. He shoots the same number of threes that Jordan shot.
Yeah.
Okay? He averages 8 points less than Jordan, but he also takes 10 shots less a game than Jordan did. Jordan plays the same way he did then as he does now. He's still an all-star scoring 30 points a game. He's still the toughest perimeter defender. Those things don't change. Okay? He doesn't have – there are guys like Kareem, Magic, Bird, Russell, the cream of the crop. They don't have to change their game to succeed in another era. They're succeeding in any era anyway because they're that good. That's why we talk about them. That's why they're the ones with 10,000 YouTube videos. They're getting theirs. I didn't like Nick, I didn't like your analogy with West, saying that West would change his game, because West did play like they play today. He took a good portion of his shots were from the range that would be a three-pointer today. He wouldn't have to change a thing, and he'd be a better player today. Score more anyway, because he shot from that distance anyway.
Maybe saying like, would they change their game? Maybe taking that a little too extreme. I just think they would play in today's style a little more. That doesn't mean West mentality or what he wants to do or how he plays necessarily changes. But again, Jordan had 4 seasons where he shot 3 or more threes a game. I don't think it's crazy to think there would be, 4 or 5 seasons he shot 5 or more threes a game in today's league, right? It's not a lot. It's not a big difference.
Yeah,
right?
but that doesn't up his points any, because if you look at his shooting percentage on twos and his shooting percentage on threes, taking 1 more 3 a game doesn't up his scoring really that much. It's only percentage points when you figure it out on a per game basis, because that's at the percentages. And he wasn't a bad three. Look, here's the reason why people say, Jordan was a bad 3-point shooter. Because of the 1 3-point contest he was in where he had the lowest score ever recorded. And then the fact that when you look at his highlights film, which is all kids today know of Jordan, is they just watch highlights forever and ever and ever. There's no 3-pointer by Jordan to win a game, ever. Because that wasn't his natural advantage. He drove to attempt winning baskets because he believed the old-fashioned, you're either going to foul me or I'm going to get the bucket. And he was a very good free throw shooter. So he wouldn't change his game. He wouldn't have to. And you look at people say, well, Bird was one of the all-time great shooters. Jordan, he couldn't shoot threes. But they have nearly the same 3-point percentage, especially in the playoffs. It's because you see the highlights of Bird hitting threes to win games. Like 6 or 7 times he did it. Twice in one game, and I was at that game. So you see it. It's, Bird was a great shooter. He won three 3-point contests, and then he hit the game winners were always threes. Well, that's because he was slow of foot, and his natural advantage was shooting over someone. So the shot that he can get as a last-second shot is a 3. Where Jordan, with the fast first step, maybe the fastest first step in history, maybe. I mean, you got Allen Iverson and Russell Westbrook, but really, considering the finishing end of it, also, Jordan's like number 1, right? So he always attacked the basket on the final plays of the game. So you never saw him hit a 3 to win a game. So now, 20, 30 years later, the conversation is, well, Jordan really couldn't shoot threes. Yes, he could. Look at Portland. Ask Portland if he could shoot threes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he had the final 3-point record for like a decade. He could shoot.
Of those 4 years he shot 3 or more, he averaged like 38, 39%. So
exactly, which is Check Bird.
That's pretty
Check
good.
Bird.
Yeah.
He's right there near Bird. It's purely because hindsight, 2020, you see Bird hitting the game-winning 3-pointers. You see Bird win 3 3-point contests. You see Jordan not hit any 3-point game winners, and you see him have the worst score ever in a 3-point shooting contest, which isn't a real game. So then you sit there and go, oh, well, this guy was the greatest shooter of the era. This guy couldn't shoot. They both could freaking shoot, okay? They're both all-time greats at the game of basketball. They all could shoot.
And in today's game, too, I mean, not a lot of true big men either. It's very spaced out. So that does open it up. That opens it up even more.
Yes. Yeah. There's no knocking him to the floor. He's not taking the damage that he got from the bad boys. So then the conversation could be, if you take our last conversation, what would Jordan be? Okay. Would he combine the two arguments? What would Jordan have done if he hadn't taken the time off, if he hadn't retired? Okay. I say if he played today, he never would have retired because he wouldn't have had the beatdowns all through the 80s that he had to deal with and the wear and tear and the stress of it. And I believe if he came around today, he would still have the same stat lines essentially. Little higher one year, little lower next year, but you wouldn't have had the retirements. For one thing, remember what he was making when he retired. All right, he was making like $3 million a year. Okay, $3-4 million a year. I think it went up with bonuses and all, which I guess he would have gotten all the bonuses because he was MVP, scoring champ, and all. So I think he was in the $8 to $10 million a year range. Okay, well today he'd be making $45 million. You're not walking away from that.
real fast. Robert is saying he's coming. I believe he's got some opposing views than you, Rex. A part of what you're saying. Let me just say my 2 cents on the scoring piece real fast. I believe that. So I understand your premise, Rex, that they have taken away the big time scorers, the big guys that just dominate everybody. The difference is that I believe, now I'm not saying that it's impossible what you're saying would happen with Michael Jordan, but Michael Jordan was the cash cow. When you look at Wilt Chamberlain, when you look at James Harden, they nearly did not have the same icon as Michael Jordan.
No.
To that point is that during the time that he was on top, they put a lot of weight on him to be the cash cow. I don't want to say they let him get away with stuff, but maybe they did.
Well, it was a thing back in the day. It's called SSP. Superstar Protection. Superstar Protection. Dr. J was the first one they used to talk to it about. You couldn't cheap shot Dr. J in the 70s when he came over from the ABA. Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Because he was the cash cow. Now, they didn't give him special calls. They didn't, call, ghost calls on the other team, but you couldn't manhandle him. It wasn't going to happen. They weren't allowing it.
But my point is that Michael Jordan was sold on top of everybody. He obviously is the most iconic basketball player of all time. If you at least want to go that far, I don't think that's arguable. If you don't want to say he's the greatest, he's definitely the most popular player of all time. I think they would have let him. I don't know if they would have let him get 50 points per game, but I believe they would have let him get the 40 points per game in regards to changing the rules. I don't think they would have stifled him because I think that he was so popular that if he played in today's modern NBA, they would have continued to let him dominate the league because it just would have been money rolling in because he was that guy. Now, we're not going down a rabbit hole of, would he have been as popular nowadays? But to the point of is if we're just superseding all of the what ifs, if you just pick him up, put him here, that he had all of that in the first place, I don't think they would have taken that away from him. Do you think that's a fair point? And well, actually, Nick, if you have anything to say with that, and then Rex, if you want to respond.
So I was just looking at his points per game, and I was trying to see, because my argument is just the pace of play, right? If Jordan can just get up 4 more shots, which I don't think is really that hard to imagine. It's not that big of a stretch. He had 37, 35, 33.6, 32.5, 32.6, essentially if you round up like 5 seasons of 33 points or more, I think in those years, right, like I think it's very reasonable to say that he could have got to 40, which I think just would have been it's just crazy to think about, because even in today's game, right, 32, 33 is like the most a guy's going to average. To think he could have got maybe 4 or 5 seasons of 40 plus, like I just think it's fun to think about, right? If you just put it in today's context, simply of pace of play, and the defense is just not. I don't think defense is as gritty as it used to be in his era. So I think he could have got over 40 a couple times. I think that would have happened.
So Rex, what? And I know you were answering a little bit that in your respect to agreeing with me. Does that change? Do you think that they still, even with Michael Jordan pulling in all that money and just dominating everything, you still think they would have changed the rules to stifle his points per game?
No, they're not stifled. Okay, I'm not saying they're going to make him average 20 or 18. It's just having one far and away from all the others, because it's only happened once.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a contrived effort. It wasn't organic. It was a plan in advance with ulterior motives. The only time a player has ever outshone everyone like that, and that's Wilt's 50-point-a-game season. Mm-hmm. The owner decided before the season even started, Wilt's going to average 50 this year, because the guy was trying to sell the team. Team was losing money. He needed publicity. He had Wilt.
Yeah.
So he hired a new coach, a coach that would go along with the program. And Wilt even said in his book, first day of training camp, McGuire comes walking in, walks straight up to Wilt and tells him, "You're averaging 50 a game this year, big guy." It was already decided. Wins and losses did not matter. He wanted publicity to sell the team. He averaged 50. They got the publicity. He sold the team, and the team moved to San Francisco. And then per the deal, next year, Wilt got traded back to Philly because he didn't want to go to San Francisco. It was all pre-planned. You do that now, it's fraud. Mm-hmm. So you're never going to see it again.
Yeah. Are you talking about 50 or 40 or
50?
Okay. Yeah, 50 I think is a hard stretch, and especially.
Well, I said he could score 40. He absolutely could. Yeah. But he'd only do it once, because remember, this is the thing that fans forget. This is these guys' lives. Okay? Mm-hmm. Scoring 40 a game is really, really hard physically.
Yeah.
To play that many minutes, to have the ball that often, to go full on every game, to average 40. That means for every game you only score 30, you've got to turn around the next night and score 50 to keep that 40 average. I don't think fans really understand what it means averaging 40. Only 2 guys have ever averaged 30. And to then say, oh, he could have averaged 40. That's bull. It's BS. No, he couldn't. No one ever has. No one ever will. The amount of effort needed to sustain that is just you can't do it. 82 games, playoffs, preseason, extended playoffs now with 14 freaking series. And then playing in the summer. Olympic teams, all that, because he did that too. It's just unrealistic. All right? Like I said, in today's game, with not being hammered, I don't think he retires. I think he plays straight through 15, 16 years. You're now making excuses for him to get worn out and retire in the middle again by saying scoring 40 every year. He could. He absolutely could have. He had the skill. But there's no need for it.
Real fast, Rex. World War Flea and Lynch 1, I believe they're saying that So they're saying they want Robin to come and set somebody straight. I don't know who exactly, if they're talking
Me, Carter.
probably you at least.
When I just said he absolutely could score 40, but he wouldn't because it would just be wasted points. There's no need to.
Yeah, it's not a debate either. We're just giving our thoughts,
And for anybody that's looking forward to Robin coming, I tried taking his name off of the thing. He said he's got Wi-Fi issues, so he won't be coming. But if you yourself disagree and you want to call in, you're welcome to call in. But with that said, I said that I think that they wouldn't change the rules, just for the people. If you're talking about me, I don't know if you are, but I disagreed with Rex. So
yeah, I'm not sure what they would do either. Like, what do you think they would do specifically to like slow him down a little bit?
It depends on how he was scoring them. Like Wilt was scoring them all around the basket, so they made a number of rules around the basket. James Harden had the 1 year where he jumped up and was getting near 40, so they changed the rules on the footwork, and he doesn't get away with all of that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Kobe 1 year, I believe, was up there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
didn't happen again.
I feel like with the Harden thing, that was a little bit of like the swing in the arms through, again, the step back three.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that, but I don't think Jordan's very, north-south, right? Like I'm not sure exactly what they would do, especially with the lane being opened up and you throw in a couple threes. I definitely think, the thing is, he played, if you look at his early years, right? He played over 40 minutes a game, 3 straight years.
Yeah.
37, 35, 32 and a half. Like, that's just my opinion. I think he would have got over 40 points like 2 or 3 times probably.
Like I said, he absolutely could. I think he could, but when he was averaging 30, when he was in 96, 97, 98, I think he could have averaged 38 if he had wanted to. But you guys don't take into consideration the wear and tear it takes to do that. And on an aside, pace really has nothing to do with it. Pace does not affect scoring for your main offensive threat. History has shown that. You look at the top 25 shots per game, right? Top 25 all-time NBA shots per game. You've got George Mikan in there before the shot clock, okay? When pace was at a ridiculous low. You've got Jordan in there from the slow 90s. He's actually more shots per game than Elgin Baylor during the fastest pace. Okay? Pace has nothing to do with shots per game for your main player. When pace slows down and possessions become more important, the shots are taken away from the role players, not the stars. You start seeing, if pace really slowed down, you'd still see Jordan shooting more shots than anyone else on the team. But Luke Longley would drop 1 or 2 shots a game. Derek Harper, not Derek Harper, but Ron Harper would drop 1 or 2 shots a game. B.J. Armstrong would drop 1 shot a game. Jordan's not dropping any shots. No coach would keep their job if they did that.
Yeah, so I understand there's singular examples where guys have shot a lot, but just for example, last year there was 5 or 6 guys who averaged 30 points or more a game. I don't think that's ever happened before in the history of the NBA. Just the average though of stars of what they're averaging is definitely higher than what it's been in the past. And I was looking in the 90s, they average about 80 shots a game, and right now it's up around 89, 90. So, I think that would definitely have some kind of effect on star players, averaging more points, getting up more shots. And you have to realize, a lot of the pace of play today is bad defense, right? A lot of those shots are just layups, guys just getting layups in transition, pushing the ball up more. And I think the thing is, we're not talking about Jordan averaging 40 for his career. I think if you just give Jordan for some of the things he did do in the 90s and you give him 4 or 5 more shots, that alone, I think,
But
a
he
few
already,
times he'd be over
but
40.
y'all sit there and say, oh, just shooting 4 or 5 more shots. He was shooting more shots than anyone in the league already.
Well, let me say something real fast. I in regards to what Rex is saying, I agree with him in respect to your star guy is going to get his shots no matter what the average pace of the league is. It's, to me, from the outside looking in, you always lean on the guy who's going to be able to get it done, no matter if it's a little bit faster, a little bit slower. That's a reason why Michael Jordan put up all the shots he did and made all the points he did, amongst other eras. Now, to your point, Nick, there's more people doing it now, but I don't think it's necessarily has to do with the pace. I just think there's just guys that are more able to do it. That's why it's happening. I feel like it's just that there's just better guys in general coming in total, that there are more. Not to say that they're better than anybody else, but that they have the capability to do it. But I just wanted to say something real fast. I thought this was funny. Lynch One says, Michael and World War III, I love to see Rex go up against Nick Wrong and Shannon Sharp. I don't know. Have you watched them, Rex? Do you know what
No,
they say?
I don't watch anything basketball related until you email me and tell me what we're going to talk about, and then I'll do some quick Google searches and some YouTube videos so I don't sound like an idiot, because I'm not a fan. I don't watch basketball.
Yeah, I see clips of those guys, but I don't really watch a whole lot of ESPN and stuff these days.
And I darn sure ain't going to listen to anyone sit and talk about basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of them are idiots. If you want to know the real experts on basketball, you don't know their names. They're living in penthouse apartments in Las Vegas, and they're making billions, not millions. Those are the guys that know the game.
Yeah, and all the basketball I really follow these days is mainly Mavs centric. So like the Mavs podcasts, and shout out Slightly Biased and like people like that. I mainly just
Brad
follow Mavs
Davis,
stuff.
the original Maverick.
Yeah.
Brad Davis. I had a Rolando Blackman jersey at one time.
Very nice. Yeah. He obviously got in some trouble.
First Panamanian player in the NBA.
Well, I gotta say, for me, outside of just talking to you guys, that you both have your knowledge that you share with me, and others that come on the show. I really don't watch anybody else's podcasts on YouTube. I will watch the ESPN stuff, but it's just that usually just for a casual recap. When I hear them do the greatest of all time debates and stuff like that, I don't take that seriously.
Yeah.
But
on an aside, real quick, I did see a video. It was actually an old video that came up on my recommended, for the argument that Bill Walton, when healthy, is the GOAT.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy actually had some really good information that I was not up on.
Uh-huh.
Really, really good video, really good argument. Of course, he was only healthy for 2.5 years of his entire career. And in those 2.5 years that he was healthy, he was MVP of the league, won the title, was finals MVP, and then won a second title and was sixth man of the year. That's what he accomplished in his 2.5 healthy years. So imagine if he had been healthy the whole way through.
I could see the argument for sure.
I mean, the NCAA championship game when he went, 22 for 24 from the field.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
Well, he is the Bill Walton of sports commentary, so I don't know if you've heard that. I don't know if you've heard that joke, but he's always includes himself in like the GOAT conversation. Nobody, and not to say that he doesn't have any sort of place there, but he'd be like the Kareems of the world, the Michael Jordans of the world, the Bill Waltons of the world. Nobody's talking about himself. So it's kind of funny.
No, he really was truly great. It's a shame that the young players today don't know. When you look at guys like Jokic, really, they play more like Walton. They say, oh, well, he's like Bird. Nah, Jokic he really plays like Walton, just farther from the basket. But Walton could shoot.
Yeah, I mean, him and Sabonis are easily got to be the two best passing big men of all time, I would think.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
I mean,
who else.
Will may have the second most assists per game of any center ever. But if you actually watch the games, he could only pass from the low post.
Yeah.
Like I had said before, there's three kind of passers. You have low post passers, you have wing passers, and then you have top of the key passers. And very few players can pass from all three positions. Wilt was purely a low post passer. And that was it. He was not a great passer. He was an extremely efficient passer because he was freaking Wilt. You always had to guard the offensive move first. So his passes were always easy passes because you couldn't play the passer. You just dunk on him.
Yeah. With this subject of how Michael Jordan would do in today's NBA, now I know this is a little bit more nuanced, and I got a couple more nuanced questions like this. But do you think, I guess Robert said he's not able to make it tonight, though, but he's listening.
Some guy also asked. Some guy also asked for it from Dallas. I'm from Dallas. I don't. The other two aren't. I do Mavericks. I cover the Mavericks a little bit.
Yeah.
I did live in Texas for 13 years.
Very nice.
San Antonio and Wichita Falls.
The next question is, though, how well do you think Michael Jordan would have done defensively in today's NBA? Do you think that he would have been able to win a Defensive Player of the Year title or more than one, and or just keep that same impact in a more nuanced sense? Rex, if you want to go first. I believe Nick went first last time.
Well, he would have been fun. Here's the thing: when you're talking about eras, Jordan was extremely sound fundamentally. Okay, so he's always going to be at the top of the range, whatever that range is. If they make the rules so that you can only, if they throttle defenders as they've done, so you can really only play at like 70% capacity, because if you play at 100, you're fouling out in 3 quarters. So you have to throttle it. He's still at the top of the grouping. This is what I talk about when people, they look at the numbers of the stats too much instead of looking at the placement. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how many rebounds Wilt got per game. The fact that he led the league 11 times is what matters. Jordan was always, 9 times? Was it 9 times first time defense?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the only reason it was 9 was because he had Sidney Moncrief, who may be before Jordan, the greatest defensive shooting guard ever. The reason why they made the award, he won the first 2. Then Jordan started getting them after Moncrief declined after his knee injury. So you could argue that if not for Moncrief, he would have gotten 10 or 11. But in any case, extremely quick, side-to-side movement, long arms, big hands, basketball mind, super, super quick and athletic. Of course, he's still going to be awesome. He didn't make stupid fouls either. If you can look up real quick, I don't have the capability. I'm on my phone. Jordan's fouls per game, I believe it was like 2.3 a game.
For his career,
2.3 to 2.7.
For his career is 2.6.
Yeah.
He only got above 3 fouls like 3 or 4 seasons.
So right there, look at the numbers. You get 6. So he played within himself defensively as it was, and still 9 times first team all defense. So you're still going to see a top defender. The only reason he didn't cover the other team's best player is because he was so valuable offensively. You couldn't risk 2 ticky-tack fouls, and now your offense is hindered at the other end. That's the only reason he didn't guard the other team's top scorer. It wasn't because he was incapable. It was because it's just stupid coaching to have your main offensive guy waste that much energy on the defensive end and risk getting him into foul trouble and thus, crippling your offensive game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think it's hard. Would he get 9? I don't know. In terms of the accolades and the awards, I do think he'd be even more valuable defensively today, being able to guard the 1, 2, or maybe even the 3 in what is kind of considered a more guard-heavy, guard-centric league these days, right? I would think he'd be almost invaluable to be able to guard the 1 and 2 spot and do it quite well, right? So I think in today's league, his defensive skill set might even be more valuable in terms of him being able to guard, what is now again more of a guard heavy league. Every night he's probably guarding easily the hardest or the second toughest guy, who's probably these days is averaging over 20 a game, right? So I think he'd be even, again, would he get all the awards? I don't know about that, but I think he'd be invaluable with his versatility to guard 1 through 3 in today's league.
Mm-hmm.
Woodworth Lee talking about Jordan would get 40 points per game easy because he'd get them at the free throw line. They don't foul like that anymore, bro. They don't play that tough a defense anymore. He already led the league practically every year in free throws taken. And now you're saying he's going to go 50%, or actually to get 10 more points per game, you're saying he's going to make 18 to 20 free throws every single game. That's not happening in any world.
Yeah, I think what Luka averages, like Luka and B, the better guys last year, average like 11 or 12 free throws a game. Jordan was kind of roughly around there. He might have gotten a couple more free throws. Huh?
Wasn't he around 9?
For Jordan, yeah, he had a couple years. He got 12 and 11 2 years. He got above 9 once, and then other than that, it's around 8, 8.5.
Now, are you? Is that free throw attempts or free throws made? No, free throws made. If it's going to count towards his scoring, you can only look at free throws made.
Yeah, so he only made over 10 1 year.
And now he's saying, he'd get 40 just off free throws. So you're saying that he's going to double and make 20 free throws a game. That's not happening. For one thing, the other team does not have that many fouls to give. Yeah. Okay? Their entire starting 5 would be on the bench.
I see it as kind of an accumulation. I see it as accumulation of everything that, like, if he gets 3-4 more shots, maybe he gets 4 more free throw attempts, right? I think it kind of, throwing an extra point for a 3 here and there, right? I'm on the side. I think he probably gets 40 2, 3, 4 times maybe.
Like I said, once prove he could do it, and they'd make tweaks to the rule, and he'd say okay. Because you got to look at it. Are they going to win anymore if he averages 40? If you look throughout history, whenever you get a guy scoring 37, 40, 45, 50, the team doesn't win. Mm-hmm. They don't win. Remember when Jordan was doing that with the 37.6, the team had a losing record. All right? You don't win that way. You don't win. So he's either going to score 40 and the team is going to suck, which the league doesn't want that, or he's going to score 34 and they're going to win.
Well, so, and I'm not disagreeing with you in total, Rex. I understand that over the course of the history of the NBA, it hasn't been looked at as the leading scorer of the league is a great player. They're generally looked at as a selfish player. They generally don't win the NBA championship outside of Michael Jordan, particularly. I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head that was league leading scorer and has won an NBA title. But outside of that, what I'm getting with that is I do think he would have scored more. And with the whole Michael Jordan aspect of it, now, again, we're going down this rabbit hole. Is he on the Phil Jackson triangle offense, the same team? So, barring, without getting into all of that sort of stuff, let's say it's a similar circumstance. He was the NBA leading, the scoring champion. So he had done that 10 times. So, without getting into the numbers, he was still the greatest scorer during his time. He had the highest points per season. So,
but you see, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying he wouldn't change his game. He wouldn't have to change his game. He was the greatest of his time as it was. He doesn't have to change for today. He would go in playing the exact same style. He would have the exact same success. He'd have basically the same numbers, and he'd still be the best guy on the court. Because ain't no one else averaging 30 points a game, even with the three now. We've had the three has been like the main offensive weapon for what, maybe 7 to 8 years now? Mm-hmm. Was it 8 years ago that Golden State won with the Splash Brothers?
Yeah, I think it was 2015 was the first year, so 8 years ago.
8 years. 8 years. Yeah. It's been 8 years. And they're chucking up threes at record pace every year. They're just throwing more and more threes. Yeah. No one's averaging 30 a game like Wilt and MJ did, so I don't know where everyone gets off saying, oh, well, he would have made more threes and he'd be scoring more. The guys that are shooting threes all night, they're not scoring more.
So, but what I was saying with the rest of my statement is that I do think that he may have scored a little bit more. In regards, I do think he'd score a little bit more. I said that. Yeah. But what I'm saying is that even if he was averaging 40, realistically speaking, I don't think in a total of his career it would have been 40 due to, getting older and then just, again, playing the what if game. If it was similar in respect to the timeline, it would have been higher, but not to 40 points. And it would have been 40-ish points, a couple times, like you're saying. But I think that, and maybe you're not saying this, maybe I'm getting confused, but you were saying that him scoring 40 points would have not, that it wouldn't have got him to win. So are you saying that in general as if he focused only on dominating and scoring, or are you just saying, or am I just misconstruing what you're saying?
Well, that's not how the game works. And you can look at every level of basketball throughout all of the history of basketball. And whenever you get someone scoring 40, 50 points a game in any league, anywhere in the world, at any point since the game's been invented, you don't win. You don't win.
No, what I'm saying though is that if there is the elevated scoring, if there's the elevated scoring, which it seems that we're all agreeing would happen, and if it got to 40 points, again, we're going down this rabbit hole, and if you're saying that it would just be higher, not 40 points, then I think we're just kind of getting into something that, I think we both agree on. But I'm saying
people don't understand the wear and tear of 40 points is what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. He'd do it once, then you got the bragging point. He did it. He's the only one to do it since Wilt, just like when he did 37-6. I think he outdid Rick Barry, I believe, who had been the second highest ever. And Elgin Baylor. He passed both Elgin and Rick Barry to get second behind Wilt. No one's catching Wilt. That's just the rules of the day, his dominance of the competition. You're not going to beat Wilt's numbers. It's not possible anymore. So I think he would get it. He'd have the bragging rights. They'd make a big deal about it. And he'd look back at the end of the season and go, dang, that was hard. And if the second guy on the scoring, if the guy that came in second in scoring was averaging 31.5, he'd be like, why am I wasting my energy getting 40 every night? It doesn't lead to winning. It doesn't. When they started winning championships, his totals went down. He scored less in the 90s than he did in the 80s. Still over 30. Still led the league. Was still the best individual scorer. But he didn't waste effort scoring meaningless points. He wasn't a stat pattern. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. He was never that guy.
Yeah, he was getting the 30 plus points per game, especially with a triangle offense, with I believe over 50% field goal percentage. So for most of the time, so it's that's not chasing for those points because you're gonna.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you can't get 40 unless you're consciously trying to get 40, because every game you only get 30, you then have to turn around and get 50.
Yeah.
People don't understand how hard it is to get 40. That's why only one guy has ever done it.
Mhm.
And to just go, oh, well, he would have gotten 40. Well, you got guys today that do nothing but drop threes all day long, and they can't even do what Jordan did then. And you're saying he's going to improve, he's going to increase his output by 33%. It's not mathematically possible. It ain't happening.
Yeah.
You just got to actually look at the numbers. It ain't happening. We're not talking about getting 40 5 or 6 times a season, which he already did. We're getting 50. Okay, what did he do? 50 was like 30-something times he got 50 points. Okay, to average 40, you've got to do that many 50-point games in one season.
Yeah.
That's how many 50-point games he had in his whole career. He ain't getting 40, guys. It's an unreal number. Is he getting more than he got in the 90s? I believe he would. I believe Jordan's athleticism, his fundamentals, and something that I was told by a Hall of Famer once. Coaches teach post defense. Coaches teach perimeter defense. That area in between, play there. And that's what Jordan has most of the people in the world calling him the GOAT, because he played there. Why would he change? He doesn't have to change. The world has to change to him. Just like the league, the world, the basketball world had to change to Russell when he made defense vertical. They had to change to Wilt when you had height plus athleticism. They changed, the basketball world had to change when Bird and Magic came in, 2 6'9" guys that could do everything. The basketball world changes to them. They don't change to the basketball world.
I want to go back to defense real fast. So, because we kind of went back to that. So, do you think that Michael Jordan would have trouble matching up with some of these perimeter heavy guys, the 3-point shooters, just to give them a blanket statement of today's age? Or do you think that he would have done better team wise and had just as good team success if he had to focus on these guys that were just, generally speaking, 3-point specialists, i.e. the Steph Currys, Klay Thompsons, Dame Lillards, etc., that these guys get all these credit for being so great? Do you think that Michael Jordan would do better? And we'll start with Nick on this one. Do you think Michael Jordan would do better against these sorts of guys versus the guys that he played in the past?
I do think, just being a guard-heavy league, I would just say on a smidgen, probably the average player is a little harder to guard just because they are operating. I think you have, again, still good athletes. The spacing, I think, is way different than it was in the 90s. Maybe you could say a little bit of struggling with that, but I don't think he would have an issue with, like, putting the clamps on someone, right? I think about, like, a Kawhi Leonard, that kind of guy. Like, there's no reason why Jordan wouldn't be like Kawhi for those 2-3 years there where Kawhi was putting the clamps on people on the defensive end. There is something to say about pace of play. Where do you expend your energy? If he's averaging 30, 35 or whatever, does he have to be smart and leave a little in the tank or something? And is he chasing guys around as hard as he can? I don't know about that, but in terms of the on-ball defense, I don't think he would struggle very much with that. I think it might be more of a question of how he would expend his energy on the defensive end these days, if anything, right? Pace of play, the fact he'd still be the best player on offense. Of course, looking at Jordan's track record, it's hard to say he would slow down at all, right? He'd still would be the same competitive guy, but maybe he approaches defense chasing these guys around in space. Maybe he changes that a little bit, but I don't think he'd have an issue. 9 first-team All-NBAs, maybe not, maybe more, but I don't think he'd have an issue. I just, it was kind of funny. We're talking about fundamentals, right, which is kind of a big thing going on right now, looking at international players versus the guys coming up. And there's kind of a big talk about AAU maybe has ruined that a little bit, and the fundamentals have gone away and stuff like that. So if Jordan still has those fundamentals, that's a big advantage for him, right? That a lot of guys on defense don't have these days, correct? So I think he'd do just fine. I think he'd still be one of the premier defenders in the league. Still would be the best two-way guard probably in the league. So no, I don't think he'd struggle. Maybe he'd have to adjust a few things. You always have to adapt and tinker here and there, but he'd be all right. I think he'd be able to put the clamps on someone like Damian Lillard more times than not.
What's your take, Rex? Do you think he would do better defensively against today's players than the players that he played against?
Yes, I do. And the reason being, the only time that Jordan, for lack of a better term, struggled, he never actually struggled, but when he had his least amount of success was when he was being manhandled. Now, even when you're on defense, you used to still get manhandled. Okay, playing defense in basketball games, I had an ankle broken, a jaw broken, and 2 concussions when I was on defense. Okay, you got to run through screens, run through picks, all that type of stuff, going for defensive rebounds, getting underneath the big men's elbows, underneath. That with how it's spread today, and since the shots are coming from deeper, the rebounds are coming farther out, you don't have that mixing it up underneath. That is what always started to drag Jordan down towards the end of seasons, and when he started having issues, not with his health really, but just the energy level, you could see would start, if they were up big, like I said, he didn't stat pad. If they were up big, he would sit for a whole fourth quarter because the next game might be against the Knicks. Mm-hmm. So as soon as the game in Orlando or Washington was a W, he'd sit, and not waste that energy, not take the chance on getting beaten up because it was a more physical game. That was the only thing that ever bothered Jordan. Different defenses, gimmick defenses never slowed him down. Playing quicker, smaller players, being guarded by a bigger player. None of these things ever slowed him down. What slowed him down was teams beat on him. You can't do that offensively or defensively. People don't think about it defensively, but it's defense when guys really get beat on the most, and it's not called.
Yeah.
When you have the ball in your hand, you're going to get a whistle when you get flattened. If you're on defense, you could get flattened and it'll be away from the ball, and it's a 50-50 as to whether the whistle was blown. That's when guys actually get beat on, and he wouldn't be.
I just want to add, because I've been and if any of the pickup guys that I play with are watching, I'm just saying, so playing the pickup lately, yeah, it's crazy how bad they beat you up on defense. Like anytime that I'm going and I got like an arm in a way, they're always smacking at my arm, trying to get past it. You're not supposed to do that. I freaking let alone just being a bigger guy in general. I know you guys aren't. You guys are more guard players when you played basketball, but yeah, people will run into you. And I felt bad. This guy ran into me on Monday. He went straight up for me. He went straight up at me with a floater. And I didn't go up with him. All I did was just put a 45 degree so I don't fall on my back. And I felt bad because he stepped on my foot. But it's like, dude, like people are jumping into you. People are doing all this sort of stuff. And that's let alone the guard stuff where they they pull you in the screens. And like you're saying, Rex, you got to choose. You got to, whatever your defense is set up, are you running through the screen, or you're just getting hit, or whatever you're doing, like you're going to get beat up on defense.
Well, to that point, watch the next game you watch, and watch out top. A lot of teams these days, I believe, do the high screen and roll because it leads to a straight three or a ball reversal.
Mm-hmm.
Watch. And off that screen and roll, don't watch the ball, guys. I know everyone wants to watch the ball. Other guys will think they're being really like astute, and they'll say, oh, don't watch the ball. Watch the guy that's doing the pick and the roll. Don't do either. Watch the second defender, right? And watch below his waist. And watch him intentionally run into the screener and knee that guy in the thigh
Yeah.
on
That sucks
purpose
too. Yeah, that
and
sucks
be
too.
taken out. He's letting himself being taken out on purpose, but he's delivering a shot, and it's
Yeah.
never ever called. Watch. That is the beating you take out top as a shooting guard on the high screen and roll. You'll get tagged in the thighs, in the knee, in the hamstring with knees. You'll get hit with elbows just below the armpit. If you're extending your arm, they'll get you right in the armpit with an elbow glancing like that. They'll get you in the middle of the back, the scapula, with an elbow going off that high screen and roll. Watch for it, and you'll see that I'm right.
No, well, I'm not talking about the high screen and roll. The worst is when you're rebounding, or you're going up for an easy bucket under the basket, and they push you in the back, or they stiff arm you in the chest, or something like that.
Yeah, you don't touch people when they go up. Yeah,
Not-
in a pickup game, right? Especially.
Not the point at you sorts of guys, you guard players. But you guard players do that to the big guys. You guys give these little cheap shots to us, where it's like,
dude, I was infamous for that. That's one of the reasons why I kept getting higher and higher and higher on the list, because I knew every one of those tricks, and I knew exactly how and when to use them. I knew how to play the game.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. You see, a lot of that's been legislated out these days because they're making $40 million a year, not $4 million. So owners want to protect their investments. So Jordan would have it easier today. And one thing that I noticed, I did try to watch a bit of a game the other week when we were talking about LeBron. So I was watching some of LeBron's games.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy that everyone knows that they're coming down to shoot threes. Yet when defenses come down court and set up their defense as the other team is bringing the ball up court, they still run down to inside the three-point line and then turn around and get in their defensive stance.
Yeah.
Why? If you know the other team is shooting for 25, why aren't you running down and stopping right where they want to shoot from? That means they can't get that spot if you already have it. I think Jordan totally would not play this useless gimmick defense.
Yeah.
If he was playing Golden State, I fully believe that he would look at Harper, and Harper would look at him and just laugh and say, let's just cover him full court the whole game.
Yeah.
And they would be on Steph and Clay from the inbounds. And it's like, yeah, okay, you're going to beat me a good portion of the time, but I'd rather have you shooting twos than threes. And then second, I'm wearing you're a smaller guy. Steph is a smaller guy. Jordan on Steph, he's going to wear Steph out in the first half with glove-like defense and just tire Steph out. Who Steph is smaller, he's weaker, and he has weak ankles. So he's going to push him. He's going to nudge him. He's going to play him full court. He's going to make him sweat bringing the ball down. He's going to be all over him. And then come fourth quarter, it's going to be his turn. And Steph isn't going to be able to cover Jordan on the other end, and he's going to smoke him for 20 in the fourth.
On a sidebar, if you have something to say, Nick, another pickup thing, because I'm just so excited to play basketball again. I haven't played like regular pickup basketball in about 10 years, and I've played like 10 to 15 times in the last couple months. So
I need to get out and start playing again. I was thinking about making a 3-point shooting video when I just rattle off like 10 or 12 in a row sometimes, which no bullshit. But yeah, I was thinking about doing that one day. I need to bring the camera and record myself.
Okay, I'm telling you right now, I will be going to Texas at some point to see my new grandbabies. And when I do, we're meeting. We're meeting somewhere, and we'll put up a camera.
We'll play horse.
Well, I guess we're both in Texas, so I won't be in Texas.
Oh, you are too?
Yeah, I'm in Texas. Yeah. I'm in West Texas, but I will be in Arizona in the near term, somewhere in there. But what I'm getting about with the pickup game is the footwork, where you got these guys. Again, this is just me going on a passion statement, but you get guys and they try to cross you over and they don't understand like distance. I kind of think of it like a boxing match. It's when you go and you pick, your hand up and you put your foot somewhere, especially when they're dribbling, trying to do a carry crossover. You guys know what I'm talking about, where it's not like just a stiff one. And that's generally what I do because I'm not smooth enough to do any of those carry crossovers. If I ever do a crossover, it's just a stiff one to actually just get some distance and some space. It's not the, try and beat somebody right in front of me that I'm playing ISO on. But it's funny. Sometimes they'll go and people will do that stuff and they don't realize how close you are to them. And it's like, all you got to do is put your hand in the way. It's like, dude, like, do you not realize how close I am to you? Like, like, what are you doing, man? Like, I don't know. But
yeah, people don't understand things like a crossover. It's meant to create space. Like, it's not meant to look cool. Like, you need to use it effectively, right? You have to get someone going one way, and the point is to make them have to, do a hard stop, and you go the other way. People sometimes just do crossovers and shit, and you're just standing there, and you're just like, okay, I'm still right here, and you're still right in front of me, and you haven't really done anything. The point of a crossover is to get your defender moving side to side, and then to get around him, right? I feel like people don't.
Well,
that's the thing with today's game. Yeah, it's just a lot of looks and stuff.
To get back on their heels.
Yeah, be efficient. You're supposed to use it aggressively and try to get to your spot you want to go, not to just, well, I'm going to do 100 crossovers and hopefully he messes up, right? That's not how you do it.
Yeah, that's the Julian Newman offense right there.
So funny. I saw a video. I totally forgot about him, and I saw a video of him the other day, and he's like coming down, and I mean he's doing like the spider dribble and stuff, and it was just, I was laughing so hard because I totally forgot about that kid. I totally forgot about him, and it was so funny watching him.
Yeah, it's like I used to see players like that all the time. You see, once I started playing older. When I got older and I was still playing, like when I lived in San Antonio, I would intentionally never go between the legs, never go behind my back, never do anything fancy, just so I could beat the guys just playing straight basketball with none of that stuff. And be like, you guys talk about us old guys not being able to compete. It's like, I'm not doing anything except set shots and bounce passes, and you can't freaking stop it. It's like, what makes you think if I play the way I played back in the day, that you would be able to even come anywhere near it?
Yeah.
Last pickup game sort of stuff right here for me. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but we were playing 21, and that when I play 21, I'll do silly stuff like that. But the 5-on-5 stuff, like I'm not beating anybody straight up, except for if I have the space, They've been calling me Jokic at my pickup games. I think it's less for my skill, and it's just that I'm taller for a pickup game guy, and I'm bald and I'm white. But outside of that, but yeah, it's like I'm not doing anything fancy. But I go and I'll do the pickup games. That's the only, the 21 games. That's the only time I'm going to do anything funny like that. And I don't even do it in between the legs. I'll do behind the back sort of stuff. I think I hit 3 3-point hook shots on my last 21 game on the guys I was playing with, just because it's like, why not? It's a game of 21. It's a 1-on X game,
Yeah.
It's just,
you'll never see anybody try less than me at 21. It's just, once you get like 5-6 guys and I'm the shortest guy on the court, I'm kind of just like, all right, well, if it comes to me, I'll get it, but I'm not going to hurt myself trying to out rebound everybody. And
yeah, I'm the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Every time I stepped on a court, it's, I'm beating you. I don't care if you stab me in my eyes. I'm freaking winning. I don't care if it's 21, horse, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 5-on-5, half court, full court. I don't care.
Definitely used to be like that. I'm just 21 now. I'm just like,
time I'm on the court.
Yeah, and it's not that I don't want to win. It's just that, like, when I'm not on a team element, I can do, I have to do what I can or do what, you know what I mean? I'm not going to take a 3-point hook shot in a pickup game.
Yeah, right.
Let alone a real game. I'm not doing a 3-point hook shot, but I can make it. It's, for me, 21's kind of like the funner game. And for me, being a, older quote unquote guy, I'm closer to 40 than 30. To the point is that, like, I'm not trying to get hurt out there. I'm not I'm not running into people. I don't want to start a fight because I'm bigger. If I go and I put weight on you, it's gonna get people annoyed. So I don't even play that game. Even when I got a guard size guy trying to, play post defense on me, like, dude, I'm not gonna wrestle you. I'm not. You want to push me out to the high post, I'll just hit you with a hook shot, whatever, dude. Like,
Yeah, another side story of me too was when I got out of high school. Right, I still played like intramurals and pickup ball or whatever, and I played for a couple of years, and I was like, I am way too competitive for what everyone else is out here to do, and that's actually why I played rugby for like 4 or 5 years, because I was playing pickup at my college, and I was just like, everyone's here to get a sweat, and I'm like acting like it's Game 7 of the NBA Finals, and like I'm getting. Yeah, and like I was always a little bit of a stockier guard, so like, I love to push people into the paint and get to the hole, and things like that. And yeah, I just remember one time just going like, maybe it's me, like maybe I'm the problem. I need to go find another gym or an activity.
When I was younger, I didn't care. I was doing it all, but at this point, like, I got stuff going on in my professional life where I can't get hurt. So
yeah, exactly.
It's
we're
like
grown-ups now, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna. You know what I mean? Like, I can't, I already rolled my ankle a couple weeks ago trying to get a rebound. I stepped on some guy's foot, and it's like, I couldn't play for a week plus. And what if I broke my ankle? That would have been a big deal. So, but it is what it is.
I did break my ankle once playing a pickup game. Yep. I was playing a pickup game. Winner got $1,500, split 5 ways. And halfway through, I started at point guard, and we had, I think it was around 8-5, something ish in that range. And guy did the old Jaja Pachulia on me, stuck his foot out on purpose. I landed on it, broke my ankle. Yeah. And so they thought they were going to get a payday. So I tightened it up super tight, and I switched to playing center because I couldn't run anymore. And I just Adrian Dantley those mothers. I was getting position, leaning on my good leg. I was elbowing. I was throwing hips. I was shoving guys out of the way. I was grabbing rebounds and staring guys down that were a foot taller than me. I was outletting passes. I hit a few little baby hooks. And we won. I took my money, and then I drove to North Carolina for my second daughter's birth. Ugh. When my wife was giving birth, I was sitting there in the chair next to her with my leg propped up on a chair with a broken ankle. Dude. And then I went back to work after the paternity leave, which was 9 days. Wore one of those neoprene bandages or neoprene sleeves on my ankle.
Yeah.
Then I had it taped with an ace bandage. Then I wore my high tops and jeans. So it covered my ankle so they couldn't see anything. And I worked with a broken ankle every day until it just healed on its own. Because if I'd have gotten a cast, I would have been let go because I wasn't a member of the union yet. So you just had to suck it up and work, when you got kids.
Yeah, many such cases of that kind of shit.
But I became an icon that day. I could walk on that court for years after that. And when the guys that were involved in that game, whenever they saw me, it was always,
That's funny.
Here he comes. Here he comes.
I'm pretty sure I broke my ankle in a pickup game. It was when I was a kid. I didn't have insurance or anything like that. And my ankle is still like 3 times the size of my quote unquote good ankle. So I'm pretty sure I broke it. But I was playing with my cousin, and I think I stepped on somebody's foot or something on a rebound, which is the only time I ever roll my ankle is somebody's foot gets in the way and I fall on it. But my cousin's like, yeah, man. He's like, just keep playing. He's like, just, just tighten up your shoelace and keep playing. You'll be cool. And I was not cool.
I was not cool.
I kept playing, and I think it made it way worse. But because I couldn't walk for like a week after that. And I mean, like, I'm not exaggerating. Like, I could not put any weight on my foot. I'm pretty sure I broke my ankle.
I've been very lucky with injuries. I've separated my shoulder playing rugby and dislocated my thumb. I've rolled my ankles countless times, but I've gotten real lucky with injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, the first dunk I ever had in a game, I rolled my ankle when I landed.
I also can't
Yeah,
jump
it
very
was-
high, so maybe that has something to do with it. I'm very much like a horizontal
Yeah.
player, so there's not really a lot of room for error in terms of rolling my ankle a whole lot and stuff.
Well,
I've never dunked in a
mine was
game.
Mine was a fast break. I got a steal, and I passed it ahead to Tony, our point guard. And this is a kids league, okay? I was like, it was actually my last year in the kids league, so I had to be 17. And I passed it to Tony, our little tiny, super quick point guard. He took off down court, and a friend of mine was back on D, was running back. He was a center. He was about 6'3", 6'4"-ish. And I'm like, okay, this isn't going to go well for Tony. So I was running down his trailer, and I was calling for him to give it to me as the trailer because it was a 2-on-1. There was no one on me. Tim was going down, only watching Tony. And Tony tried to put it up on him. And I don't know if Tim got a piece of it or not, but it hit I saw the whole thing. It was like in slow motion happening in front of me. I was right at the top of the key running to the basket. It went off the backboard, hit the front of the rim, and then just like sat there like 4 inches above and in front of the rim. Just perfect. I mean, you couldn't hold it up there at a more perfect spot. And I jumped up off 2 legs, got it with my right hand, dunked it in. And the only thing I was thinking was don't hang on the rim because these refs in this little kids league blow technicals for everything.
Yeah.
Like if you get called for a foul and you stomp and look at your mom in the stands, they call it technical. So I pulled my hand back. And then when I landed on Tim's ankle and rolled my ankle. So I got this standing ovation. Everyone jumps up screaming because the little 5'7" guy dunked it. So everyone's going crazy. Meanwhile, I'm in the fetal position holding my ankle. And we end up losing. And I tried going back in the game at the end, but I literally couldn't even move. Couldn't even get down the court. And we lost.
I never tried dunking in a game. So for me, especially as I got older, because when I was younger, I could do some fancy dunks, but I was, whatever it was, I guess you could say I was afraid of it, but I was afraid of getting hit going up on a dunk. I didn't want to get my legs taken out from underneath of me. Because when I was younger, I weighed a lot less. I weighed, under 200 pounds. I weighed at one point 170 pounds when I could do these fancy dunks where I could go, and I'm a little under 6'4". So I could do 180 dunks under the basket. I could do off the backboard dunks. But as I got older and up until I was like 220, 230 in weight and a little younger than I am now, I could do the power hop dunk. But the power hop dunk is just kind of like a put in dunk. You might as well just put a layup in. You know what I mean? It's not like you're getting too much power behind it, especially at this size. So, why not just do a layup? And if you're not doing anything fancy, / you're afraid to get your legs that's why I've never dunked in a game because I've just always been afraid of somebody getting at me. And I've always, played a low post guy. I've never been driving to the basket to go do a open dunk like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, with me, it was the main part of my game because I came from track and field to basketball. It's like that's literally why the basketball coach grabbed me was because I was so fast and could jump so high. I couldn't play basketball, but he saw me dunk a volleyball jumping straight up without a running start and was like, "Come here, kid."
Yeah.
So that was my thing. And then once I tried, everyone's telling me, if you really want to get good fast, go play on the playground with the men. So I would go around to the playgrounds around DC, but being a little white 15, 16-year-old, nobody was picking me up. So then I figured out, okay, when they take the game down to one end, I'm going to go do some dunks over here. They'll pay attention then. And they did. They're like, damn, you see that guy down? You see what he just did? So then they'd want to see it on the court. So someone would pick me up. And I would only score 1 or 2 points a game. I would play tough D, try and scrap for loose balls, grab a couple loose, longer rebounds. But essentially, I would get a breakaway. I learned to read the court. And I would see, okay, the ball's going up and then my guy isn't even watching me, and my guys all have position underneath, I would take off because I know my guys are getting the rebound. They grab it, throw it down to me. I jump up, dunk it. Everyone go, woohoo, look at the little guy. So and that's how I got my points, and that's how I was able to stay on the court until I learned how to play. So it was always integral to it was always a main part of my game was showing off how high I could jump. But I got hurt all the time. I mean, all the time. I never got through one official game at any level completely healthy.
Yeah.
I got hurt every game because I only weighed 140 pounds.
Yeah.
I was 5'9", 140. They always listed me at 5'10" or 5'11", 150. I was never that. I am now, but I was never that. And I'd get in the air, and guy would, give me the elbow shove on my hip. I got sent outdoor one time. I got sent into the pole head first because the guy didn't know I could jump.
Mm-hmm.
And he came at me and he clotheslined me thinking he was going to hit the ball, but my head was that high. And I did a somersault in the air and then hit the pole head on with my head on. Busted my head open, got 6 stitches right on my eyebrow right here.
I've seen this one guy. I used to play it. It wasn't like a terrible court, but there were all sorts of people that would go there. And there was this older guy at the time. He's around probably a little older than I am now, but I was 19 years old at the time or so. And there was a guy in his probably late 20s, but he was a rough around the edges guy. The older guy was a guard white guy. Accidentally tripped the other guy, and ended up punching him out. The guard was not being nice about it. He's like, "Oh, you got tripped, whatever." And he wasn't looking out for him, being like, "Are you okay?" Because he ran head first into the outdoor, metal stanchion, and he just was like, whatever. We ran his head into the stanchion. Let's keep playing. And it's like, so the guy had a problem. He's like, "Why'd you do that?" And I'm not going to say his name. I don't, just for whatever. But he's like, "Why'd you do that?" And he's like, "Oh, and it's kind of blew him off." So he came out there and just started trying to punch him out. And but and that's the reason why it's like, and that's why I wouldn't do that sort of stuff. It's because I'm not trying to run my head into a wall, because I'm trying to show off for something that now if I knew who I was playing with and they would just let me do it, then. But most of the time I was going extra, so I knew they weren't going to let me go extra. Now I'm older, and the guys I'm playing pickup with, most of them are older, so nobody's really trying to get an edge on somebody that hard. So, but I don't know.
Yeah, I've been at a couple courts where guns were pulled. Yeah, knives, stuff like that. I've done the old white men can't jump scene where the guy gets fouled real hard. They have pushing and shoving. You get in between them. The dude at the end of the game goes straight to his car, and you realize as he's going to his car, you realize he's going around to the passenger side. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, he ain't, steering wheel's on the other side. He's not going to leave. And you just take off, right? You learn, you leave then. You take off down the other end of the court, and by the time he pulls the gun out of the glove compartment and he's walking back to the court, you're climbing the 10-foot fence at the other end, swing your legs over, and taking off into the woods.
My dad told me a funny story. I can't remember if it was when he was playing JUCO ball or if he was in high school. I want to say it was JUCO. And it was the same thing, a big rival, it had been really testy in the past. And this game had been real tense. And so at the end, as it looked like they were going to win, they were on the road. And, I think one of their players was kind of shooting free throws. And the game was essentially iced, right? The coach went down the bench and was like, as soon as he makes this last free throw, they inbound the ball and the clock's out. We're out this door right here immediately. And essentially, after that happened and the guy hit the free throw and the buzzer went off, the cops essentially immediately get around the away team just to give him a second to get out. But my dad said he's been to a few games too. Chairs were thrown and all kinds of crazy shit, man. It is crazy sometimes. It's nuts.
As a coach, all right, as a coach of a kids league, I had the opposing coach and his brothers waiting outside in front of my car for me one night.
Yeah, dude. Some people get way. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I get it. Tempers run hot.
Because he didn't know the rules.
Oof.
Because he didn't know the rules. They were smashing us. They were destroying us. But he didn't know the rules, and he didn't know the rule that they couldn't finish with 3 players. So at the end of the third quarter, I told my team, stop trying to score. We're down by over 30. We're not coming back to win. Our only way of winning is to foul out 2 of their players. So every time you get the ball, go right into them.
Pump fake, yeah.
And yeah. And with like 19 or 20 seconds to go, we fouled out their point guard, so they were playing with 4. And then it comes down, and it wasn't even my guy getting the foul on the guy. He tried to get the foul on the guy. They didn't call a foul. The ball went up, and they called the kid for an over the back on the rebound. And as soon as he got whistled for the foul, I jumped up in the air and cheered, and everyone was looking at me because we were down by like 37, and no one understood.
High
No
IQ
one in the
moment.
whole gym, including the officials. I had to pull out the rule book and show the official the rule.
That's
And I
actually
said,
pretty
this
funny.
is our game. They have to forfeit. They only have 3 players.
Yeah.
State
That's
rule
funny.
says they can't finish with 3. And
That's
yeah,
funny.
him and his 2 brothers were waiting for me outside.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. Because I don't want to say I've been in I haven't been in terrible courts, but going to some places, especially if you go by yourself, sometimes you get ganged up on, especially when you're young. And I'm not saying nobody's ever actually done anything to me. I've been threatened by people. Like there's this one guy, he was about 6'9", and he kept coming at me, dribbling the ball, and I kept stealing the ball from him. And he's like, you keep doing that, whatever, call me slurs and stuff like that, I'm gonna beat you up. And his buddies were all like, I forget, they were along the lines like, shut up, he's just beating you, stop being sensitive because you can't keep the ball in your hands, with nicer words on both sides of that conversation. But
I've been in a few scuffles, that's for sure. Comes with the territory a little bit. Never? I've been in a few for sure.
Did. Playing in all the courts I was at all over Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia, Maryland area. When I traveled to Houston or California, Chicago, never. Not one. Didn't matter what neighborhoods. I played in East St. Louis. I just walked right in, asked if I could get in the game. But guys would give me looks. Guys would say stuff. Nobody ever touched me. Nobody ever actually physically attacked me because I always made it completely clear, and you could tell by my demeanor, I'm there to play ball.
Yeah.
They said, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I'm not from here. I was told this is where all the ball players are. So I'm here. They're like, well, we're going to destroy you. I said, that's why I'm here. Yeah. I'm here to become a better player. I'm here to learn. Give me your best. And no one ever gave me garbage, ever. The only people that ever actually picked fights with me were white guys. Ever.
Well, actually,
mine was the other way around, but that's my experience.
The only time that I got in a bad, quote unquote, bad situation, but it was also halfway my fault, I'm not going to lie, because I was being a little scrappy in the post, and I probably did do like, what do you call it? The crab, when you have it like this. I probably elbowed the guy, and he was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just playing ball. And but he was way bigger than me. And he elbowed the crap out of my ribs.
Like, all right.
I think he broke my floating rib because I couldn't breathe for like a month.
I was a little bit of a trash talker. Like in my defense, I feel like I never started, but as soon as someone said something to me, man, I was lit. I was just ready to go. Not fight, but like it was just I was ready to compete. And when you turn it up, sometimes people don't
I was
like
an
it.
asshole. I was an absolute jerk. I was an absolute menace to society when I played. I've made grown men cry with my trash talking. I have no moral. I had no filter. I had no sensitivity. I mean, I was an outright bastard.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You kind of have to be, right? Like, you have to, especially like depending where you go, like you got to have a chip on your shoulder a little bit.
And the reason was, my dad never came to watch me play, ever. He came to one of my kids' league games. That's the only game of mine he ever saw, ever on a playground, in a league, school, any level. Yeah. Only ever came to one game. He never. So I was always out there on my own.
Yeah.
I didn't. And my dad was never there, and me say something off color, and him go, "Hey, come here. You don't talk like that."
That's true.
I never had that.
I remember feeling like that sometimes too. I tell my mom and dad,
I had a great dad, but out there in that world, I was on my own.
Yeah.
And I navigated it and figured out what I had to do to be successful in that world, I guess, is how you would say it. And if anyone came with me with trash talk, I would my one-liners were like freaking gaggers.
Yeah.
And I would make them look silly. I would defend them in ways that made them look really awkward, And that's the secret on playground ball. You just can't block a shot. You need to block. And you always see guys like volleyball it out of bounds. Don't do that. You really want to make a guy look bad, you block it right back down into his face. And then as he's coming down from the shot, you keep pushing. And I would literally push a guy all the way down to the freaking ground without touching him. Because I'm pushing on the ball and the ball's in his chest, and I would literally shove him all the way down to the ground or all the way into the fence, still just palming the ball and not even touching him. That's how you block somebody in playground. That's how you make them look like fools. Or if you get a steal, you get a steal at the top of the key, you don't take off down the other end of the court. You get the steal, you stand up straight and you look him right in the eye like, well, that's all you got? Then you take off down the court.
So I've been doing this lately. There was this kid the other day when I was playing, and I don't know how old he was. He might have been a teenager even, but he was young. At least at the oldest, his early 20s. And he crossed me over a couple of times from the 3-point line, and he's like, "Ooh," and he's like, trying to, because everyone thinks and I'm not saying I'm a great basketball player. Don't get me wrong. I never played any real basketball, but pickup. A lot of people just think I suck because I'm heavier and I'm white and I'm old and I'm bald and stuff like that. But anyway, I go back and I did this twice to him. He comes up, I'm going down, I cross him over where, a full court, me taking the ball by myself. And I cross him over when he's trying to defend me. And then he comes and I don't say anything. I don't trash talk. I just go, and I just come back at you with the game. But but it was funny. I did 2 jump stop layups on this guy, and he's like running backwards, trying to block my shot with like thinking I'm going to go straight up and do some Euro step like all the kids do. I'm like, dude, I'm just going to jump stop, and you're going to fall back on yourself, and I'm just going to put it up as I've stopped, literally, and just do a shoot around layup.
Yeah, I remember one time telling like, for me to be competitive and like be a dog in front of my dad is one thing, because like me and my dad go play a lot together. So like he would say like, I'm not going to help you. Like, go ahead.
Real fast. I just want to say that my dad wasn't around when I was a kid, so my dad in basketball, nothing to do with it. So in regards to Rex, like I just never liked the trash talk because I didn't like not being able to back up my trash talk. So I just would beat you in the game. And then you can't say anything when I'm not saying anything to you, and I'm just beating you down. But that's how I felt about it.
I'd go play a lot with my dad, and like my dad definitely, like, you got to play with a chip on your shoulder, right? You just have to, right? You have to go out and you have to act as if nobody thinks you can play, right? And you have to prove it to them. But I used to tell my mom, I'd be like, I kind of don't like when you come to the game because I don't feel like I can like fully like embrace that kind of dark side a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like being like that in front of you. My dad's different, right? My dad would be like, if someone trash talked me, he'd look at me and be like, what are you gonna do about it? Like he would totally get the game. But I used to tell my mom, I was like, I kind of hesitate a little bit when you're around because I don't want to, I don't want to say something you're gonna look at me cross-eyed like, what did you just say? So like I was always different with my mom and my dad.
For being a for being a non-trash talker, I love shutting up the trash talkers without saying anything. It's so fun. I'm telling you, because most of the time it's people you don't know. You know what I mean? Like they're just like, "Oh, I see you. I just got an impression of you. I think I can get in your head." It's like, "No, dude, you can't, and I'm probably better than you." So, you know what I mean? And it's fun when it comes, obviously you get beat sometimes or whatever, and it's like, well, all right, I lost, but
Yeah.
I've never been a trash talker because I never liked the idea that I'm going to start trash talking you, and then I can't back it up, because I love when I'm on the opposite end and you trash talk me and I smoke you. I think that's the funnest part for me.
The two best ways to go with it is when someone's trash talking you.
Mm-hmm.
When you get back at them, you don't trash talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
You turn directly away from them, like they're not even in the room, and you talk to their teammates.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you gonna leave this guy on me, or are you gonna cover him? Because this ain't working for you guys. Or
Yeah.
What's really great is when you go to a different court, because I would go to like 9 or 10 different courts, and I would get to a court, and one guy, from you go there like 3 or 4 times, one guy, one of the regulars.
Mm-hmm.
No one else knows you, but the one guy does, and you and him start talking trash, friendly. Between the two of you, you're just jabbering. You don't mean it. And you start saying stuff like, "I'll freaking kill you. I'll stab you in the freaking throat, mother." And you're talking all this stuff, and everyone else on the court is like, "Oh my God, these guys are about to really throw down." And it's so funny because the two of you have got this thing going during the game. You're still playing the game against each other, but you're like a team against the other 8 guys, just coming out with the most outlandish, crazy trash talk to each other, because you both know that it's a game, that it's a word game, but the other 8 guys on the court are like ready to like jump in between us like to break it, because they don't know that we know each other, and they don't know that it's just a word game between us, and we don't mean any of it. It's like after the game we're probably going to go to McDonald's together, and you're just saying outrageous stuff that I can't even say on this podcast or it'll get cut.
The thing is with that, like I'm still light with the trash talk even if I know somebody, but I will trash talk a little bit back. Like, but that's, I was talking about it before, like the granny shots, the 3-point hook shots. That's what I like. Again, having my game talk for me, or I'll do a bank, or I'll take like a 3-point bank shot. And then I'll be like, "Oh, the bank, did the bank call?
Bank's open." Yeah, bank's open.
I'll do stuff like that, but I always do one-liners. I don't go on and on about it. Real
Dude,
fast.
Yeah.
No, Lisa Lorenzo, welcome. You said my kid wheelchair basketball for all, and it may have been a little aggressive. We have somebody on the channel if you want to look at for some more videos. OG Garfield. He's a wheelchair basketball player, and there's actually a whole.
OG is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Had no idea.
But
miss him, by the way. He needs to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I gotta coerce him more.
Special guy.
And let me correct myself. I'm not sure. I might have misused that word, but he can't move from the waist down, so he can move his arms.
I gotcha.
I might have misused that term. If I did, I apologize. But Lisa, if you want to hear somebody, he's got some stuff on my videos, and he talked about how crazy it gets with that sort of stuff, them knocking each other over. And that seems harder than just regular basketball, because you got to flip a whole wheelchair over, and they got the 4 wheels. He went on talked about it for about an hour and a half. If you want to check that stuff out, but yeah, that stuff is crazy. Those guys are wild, man. And girls that play wheelchair basketball, because that's rough.
Yeah, it's like taking away the lower body. It's like taking away the lower body punishment. Just all of it's on the upper body.
Mm-hmm.
The only wheelchair game I ever saw was at the Y down in central San Antonio. I guess it was on the southwest. And we were there for a game, and there was a wheelchair league that was playing after us. And the thing that caught my attention was one of the guys didn't have the handles on the back of his wheelchair, like to be pushed, the handles there. He didn't have the handles. And I asked him about it, and he said because guys would grab the handles in the game. So he cut them off. The wheelchair that he played wheelchair basketball in, he cut the handles off of because he said people will always grab them and like jerk them as you're trying to shoot.
Interesting.
And that's the only thing I've ever known about wheelchair basketball was as I was going out, I noticed it. I asked the guy, and he told me that's why. That he literally cut them off of the wheelchair he used for wheelchair basketball.
Yeah. So Denali says, now you guys, I guess, are on the opposite end of it. Denali says trash talk is for beta males. Like, I don't want to use derogatory words.
Part of the game, baby. It's part of the game. I love trash talking, man. I never started, though. I want to make that clear. Like, I don't like to talk trash, but it's one of those things, like, I think me and Dart take a different approach. Is when someone trash talks me, like, I take it as they're trying to feel me out. They're trying to see if there's blood in the water. I've just always been of the mindset, like, you cannot show any sort of, you cannot recoil, you cannot hesitate. It's not that I'm just going to chirp the whole game, right? But if someone says something, I feel like you kind of have to say something, but it doesn't mean you have to be, like, over the top or insult their mother. But you just got to let them know that, like, hey, I heard you, and I'm going to give it back, and we can leave it at that. But, yeah. I think it's just part of the game. I think it's fun too, especially like Rex was saying, like if you're witty and you're funnier than they are and you come back real quick, that gets back in their head sometimes. If they say something, they don't think you're gonna say anything back, and you just pop off with a funny one-liner that even their teammates hear you say and laugh at. That can be a little bit of a mental game.
Oh, so before you talk about it, Rex. So I guess. Because I've heard Kevin Garnett think this is trash talk. And I honestly, for being a guy that acts like this when I play basketball, I don't think it's trash talk. He would talk about Tim Duncan saying, oh, that was a good shot and stuff. I do that all the time against guys I play.
Yeah, it could be anything.
If they beat me, I'll be like, yeah, that's a good shot, man. But then I
always shake everyone's hand. Everyone who was willing to, I would shake their hand after every game. No high fives. I would look them in the eye and shake their hand and say, good game. Even on the playground, even if they tried starting a fight with me or whatever, always did. And I even had guys in South Carolina. I was playing on the Marine base, like at, I was playing at the gym on Paris Island. I was living out in town by the naval base or naval hospital. And we were playing in the gym, and like 4 or 5 fights were starting that day, and I was in the middle of all of them. And then that night I was going to the Kmart to grab something, I don't know, socks or t-shirts, whatever. And I'm walking across the parking lot, and I'm going like super slow. I'm like total ease mode, like just absolute stroll, looking at the stars, totally oblivious. And the guys that I was fighting with came out of the Kmart, walked right past me, trying to act big and tough, and I didn't even notice them. Totally oblivious. Didn't even see them. If they had wanted to sucker punch me, they could have laid me out because I was totally oblivious. And after they passed me, they called me out, got my attention, and they're like, man, off the court, you're one cool dude. Said you're just eased back, just cruising on in, totally oblivious to everything. But man, you get between the lines and you try to kill people. And I just smiled at him and said, yeah. And then just went about my business. Guys were some of my best friends after that until I moved up to North Carolina. It was like Nick said, it's a thing of they intentionally come at you and you can't back down. Now, you don't have to up it. You don't have to escalate it.
Right.
But you have to know how to handle it.
Yeah, I just play, and I just generally do better. That's how I handle it.
I mean, it could be something even as small as like a wink. Like when you make a move on them and you score, and you're both like kind of walking down court, and you just like give him a little wink, like, I know that you know that I got you.
I've just never done that. I've just beat them, and if I've lost, I've lost. But most of the time, I've won. So maybe I'm not trying to, and maybe and I'm not trying to say like I'm not a great basketball player. I would have been in the pros or something. So, but just to the point of that, I just never cared to do that sort of stuff. Even outside of I know the guy and like we're actually friends or something, and it's just like a little cheap dig to be like, oh, okay, well, you're starting something with me, but if I don't know you, I'm not talking anything to you because I'm gonna start getting heated, and if you get heated, I don't want to fight you because it's just basketball, and I've just never I'm a larger guy. My dad always told me, he's like, you should never try to get in street fights because somebody's just going to try and use a weapon on you because you're gonna.
Yeah, of course, it needs to be
bigger. You're way bigger than
yeah.
them. So,
yeah, and Denali is saying like someone went after his family members. Like, I'm not talking about anything like that. That's not. I'm talking about just trying to. I wouldn't get that far.
If they started, everything's game. There's no out of bounds if they started with me. I never started trash talking.
Like, I would match it. I'm not sure I'd go deep.
There's no. That's what I said back when I was young. Not now, obviously not now, but back pre-Marine Corps days. If somebody started it, somebody gave me a cheap shot, somebody tried to hurt me. Oh yeah, anything and everything is on the table. I remember many times I would beat a guy. Like, I'd make a move. I always saved one move that was a move I practiced every day by myself, and I only used it if it was like game point and I had the ball.
I'm here. Don't worry. Yeah. I'm here.
Yeah. And I would go and I'd do the move and hit it, and the guy I'm going against wouldn't know the move, but the other regulars at the court would, is one of those situations. And I'd beat the guy, and they always were upset whenever I beat them because I'm so small, and it was a race thing. I'm small and white, playing in predominantly black areas. So if I beat them, they'd hear it from their friends,
Yeah, nothing the brothers hate more than losing to the white guy. That's just kind of the way it is. That's just basketball, man.
And they'd always start insulting me after I just beat them. And I would sit there and say, I don't know why you couldn't stop that. I told your mother I was going to use it on you last night.
Yeah.
I
always kept it basketball related, I guess. I never went for the jugular like that, but I always kept it kind of on the court. Trash talk.
If you're not going for the jugular, you're not trying to win. I went for the jugular playing. I went for the jugular talking. I didn't try to beat a team by 1 point. I tried to beat them by 31.
Yeah,
it was always extreme with me, which is probably why I'm not a fan now. I can't watch it. I can't be part of it. I don't like it. It's probably part of it, because for me it was, once I decided that basketball was going to be my thing, I knew it was a total uphill battle. And it was like, look, I shouldn't even have been on the high school team. I was only put on it because of my athletic ability, not because I could play basketball. So let's just see how far we can take this. So everything was 100 miles an hour every time I stepped on the court for 10 years. Every time I stepped on a court, it was training. It was practice for the next real game. There was no goofing around. There was no friendly game of horse. There was no just goofing around. Let's see, let's just, never. Not once did I go to a basketball court to have fun for a decade. Every time I stepped foot on a court, it was to win, and to win big, and to just show everyone that I had it.
Well, I want to add to what you're saying, Rex. So it was fun for me to do that stuff. So like, I came out there trying to win, and I would go and I would lean my shoulder into you. I would drop step. Like, that was my move. Is I would put my body on you and drop step you, probably the way it should. I shouldn't have been drop stepping you, so you wouldn't want to even touch me. And I would get the ball. I mean, I generally touch the ball a lot anyway. But just to the point of is that, again, I just started playing like first time in the last 10 years, like I'm a pro or something like that. But when I was playing a lot as a kid, I would especially when I was heavier, I would get the ball a lot and I would just body people. But now, like I don't even touch people because I'm not trying to hurt people. But again, I guess it's a different life. Every so many years, you kind of change your personality, I guess. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I would go out on a court and play, I haven't played a real game in a year. Well, I guess I moved to Wilmington a year and a half ago. I haven't played a game, other than with my 9-year-old twins. I haven't played a game against men in a year and a half. And I don't play, I don't talk trash anymore. Guys talk trash to me now. It's a thing of, I don't want to talk back to them. I'm just going to win and then just say, yeah, I'm 56 years old too, by the way, after I win. That's why I have used the line, kids today say that guys from the 80s and 90s couldn't compete today, but I'm smoking you all pretty easily. So I don't know where it came from. That's about the most I would say today. But I don't play the way I used to. I can't run or jump anymore, really. So my style of play is completely foreign. I cannot play the way I played. Now I just sit out on the wing, and if they leave me open, I'll take a shot. And if they cover me, then I look for the cutters and I fire a 80-mile-an-hour pass, to a cutter underneath or to a post man, try and pass them open. And that's the extent of it. And then I'll grab some rebounds on defense and outlet to the 20-year-old with quick legs.
Yeah, and sorry, go ahead.
Oh, microwave. So there's, again, this has devolved into playing pickup basketball, which I think is fine. I mean, it's keeping an audience, and I'm having fun talking about it. But Microwave says, the only thing that annoys me in games when someone keeps complaining all game about minor stuff, like when it keeps stopping the game, it's nothing serious. So this is the craziest thing I ever heard of. Rex, I know you've had your experience in, different leagues and different settings in general across basketball. This guy, like he was dying on this hill about this. So he went and he took a jump shot. Nobody touched the ball, and he grabbed it and shot it again. And we said travel. And this guy's like, well, I shot the ball. It counts, that I shot the ball. It's not a travel because I actually shot the ball. So I haven't asked anybody, but everyone else was just like, dude, you know what? You want the ball that bad? Just take it. But just to the point of it's like, I've never heard that before. Have you heard that if you're in the motion, nobody touches that? Is that legal to touch the ball again, or is it a travel?
If it is a legitimate shot, which is always up to the subjectivity of the ref, I believe is the rule. I believe that is the official rule, but that's up to the ref to decide if you really were trying to take a shot or not, right? I think that's the rule, the wording of the rule. I could be wrong.
As an actual certified high school official for the state of South Carolina, I can tell you, depending on the level, you cannot touch the ball. You cannot be the first one to touch the ball after it releases your hands. Okay? It has to hit rim, backboard, or another player's hands. Yeah. Now, you can, in some leagues, you could be the first to grab it. Like say it's not a shot. If it's a shot, it's clear cut. If you shoot, it has to hit rim or backboard. You can't touch it unless someone else touches it, which you said no one touched it. So unless it hits rim or backboard, you cannot catch your own air ball. That is traveling. Even if you stand still and you catch it, it's called a self pass. You cannot do that. Now,
I wouldn't have died on that hill either, by the way. Even if I thought that was the rule, I wouldn't have died on that hill.
If you lose the ball, if you lose control of the ball, in some leagues, you can't touch it. You used to see guys in the NBA, they'd hold their hands up and they'd like try and box out the defense and wait for a teammate to come grab the ball. Remember those days?
Yeah.
Then they changed the rule. You're allowed to pick it up, but you can't dribble it again. Those are the two. Those are the options. But no, if you're shooting, you cannot catch your own air ball. You never have been able to since 19. I think it's 05.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I get, and that's the point. It seems like everyone knows that rule. You can't do that. Now, again, I'm sure that, like you're saying, that maybe, in some pockets you can do that. But generally speaking, my entire life in a pickup game, I've never heard somebody in a pickup game say you can do that, at the very least.
Yeah. Well, I never called a foul in a pickup game ever.
Mm-hmm.
I never, it's call your own fouls. I never called a foul. I found out when I was young that taking their aggression, taking the beating, and just keep on playing, it made you better, and at the same time, it gained their respect.
Yeah.
But they're like, okay, this guy isn't a crybaby. He's not going to call a foul. He's going to just keep competing, and he's just going to keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. In fact, that's probably how I would get the most, because it was common for me, especially as you go higher. I would come in the game. Obviously, I wasn't a starter at my size. I'd come in the game, and you always get the same thing. You're covering me, You get that thing, when I'm covering like a 6'3", 6'4" shooting guard or even a point guard, and I come in at 5'9", 5'10", they're like, you're covering me? And I'd tell them straight out, you may beat me. You very well will beat me. But when this game is over, you're going to be the one thankful it's over and gasping for freaking air, not me.
Yeah.
And at the end of the game, they may have won. I may have gotten burned a few times, but at the end of the game, I always got a handshake, and the guy was always like, dude, damn. Because I was always in their face. I was always defending. I was always taking the best shot and right back there. And I would tell them, yeah, you're going to beat me. I know that. But at the end of this game, you're going to be the one that's glad it's over. When that final, when the final horn's done, you're the one going, thank God, not me. Because it's going to be hell for you until that point. You're going to get it. You're going to get the W, but you're going to freaking earn it.
World War Flea says he's going to dunk on me, you, Rex, and then trash talk respectfully, though. Hey, I've told...
You didn't call me out. You did. I'm just kidding.
I know you said you played for Syracuse, so I don't doubt that at all. I
played for Syracuse, so I retract my last statement.
Who is this? Stevie Thompson?
Oh, I don't know. World War Flea.
Is this Leo Routens?
But
who is this? Is this Matt Rowe?
So I've told my getting dunked on story face up about 1 million. It feels like 1 million times, probably because it's so embarrassing. But I've said it at least 3 or 4 times on the show. In short, it wasn't, definitely at the Syracuse level. It's just a D3 guy. I think I was 18 or 19 years old. I wanted to play one-on-one with this guy. Checked it up with him. I just kind of sagged off of him, just seeing if he would take a jump shot. And he just ran up on me and dunked on my face, dunked on my head. I was close enough to the basket where he just straight up ran up on me and dunked on me. So, yeah, you probably would.
The worst time I ever got dunked on was actually by my own teammate in a pickup game. You can look him up. Warren Carter played at Illinois. I don't know if you guys remember when Illinois went undefeated and they lost in the championship game in North Carolina. He was a freshman that year, I think. But he's like 6'9". He was like a top 3 recruit in Texas at the time. And so I'm sitting there ready to catch a rebound, right? And I go up. And I mean, next thing you know, I'm on the ground. And I see him just kind of hanging on the rim. And I was just like, oh, God. I just got absolutely... Luckily, it's my own teammate, so it's not like embarrassing. But I definitely got dunked on, technically.
No, I got dunked on a lot of times. I dunked on other guys a couple times. I used to always be just totally realistic about it. I had times when I got dunked on and then come down the other end and I'd hit a 3 and like they'd be like, get him back. And I would pull up and hit a 3 and they're like looking at me like, why'd you do that? Why'd you settle for a 3? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm winning. His dunk was worth 2. My shot was worth 3. You can
Yeah.
dunk on me all day long. I'm
One of
still
my-
winning.
I'm not that athletic, right? It's like one of my favorite jokes was whenever they invent a 3-point dunk, I'll start trying.
Yeah.
Now that you bring it up, it's not a 3-point dunk, but supposedly it's not on video because it was at a practice, but everyone that was involved in that practice said it happened. When Hubie Brown was coaching Dr. J in the ABA, in a scrimmage at practice, he said that he split the defenders coming down, jumped from the top of the key, and barely dunked the ball. Just got his fingertips to the rim, jumping from the top of the key.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I really believe that.
I don't know.
But
That's crazy, man.
everybody that was involved with the team said, yes, that happened. So just throwing it out there. Like,
That's crazy.
it's the only time
It's
that we
nuts.
know of. Dr. J actually dunked on Wilt Chamberlain
Mm-hmm.
in his face, all up in his face.
All up in his grill.
Yeah. Only guy to ever do it. But it's not on film because the camera stopped working. The feed went down. The ABA and NBA used to have an all-star game. And Julius was in the ABA. Obviously, Wilt was in the NBA. And in the fourth quarter of the game, I believe it was 1972, about a third of the way into the fourth quarter, the transmission system went down. They lost picture. So they don't have it on film of him actually dunking on Wilt, but you can hear it.
Interesting.
So, like, possibly the greatest single play in basketball history we didn't get to see because of the video of the time, the technology of the time.
Rex, I hate to interrupt you, but I just don't know if you're cognizant of what time it is. And
I do. And actually, my wife has already texted me saying that she was ready early.
Are you taking
But
us
you
for
know
a,
me,
Are you taking us for a ride, or are you getting off?
that's up to you.
Yeah, take us for a ride. Take us for a ride.
Let me see if I got everything.
We got the pig chasing story earlier, or last ride we went on.
Oh, no. You got that backwards. It was not a pig chasing story. It was a Rex chasing story by the pig.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to pick up mommy, guys. Come lock the door behind me.
Late.
I'm always late. Did you hear my kid?
Yeah.
Are you late? Yeah,
but-
they're total mama's boys, and I'd have it no other way.
Yeah. So so here's a question though. With so just to go back a little bit to the Michael Jordan stuff. Who? How if he was on a similar team like the Chicago Bulls back in the 90s, do you think that he would have been able to win as many championships in the modern NBA with a similar style team?
For my opinion, I actually do. I think the Bulls might be better built for today's league, right? Scotty and a Jordan being able to guard the 1 through 4. Maybe you could put Scotty on some 4s these days. Dennis Rodman, I think, would be an absolute monster in today's game. I think he's vacuuming up everything. Especially if they have Horace Grant, right? I think Horace Grant is a very serviceable center for today's game. I think Scottie Pippen and Jordan on the defensive end, coupled with what, you have to imagine Kerr's probably shooting some more threes or something like that, right? And with his percentage, he's probably going to make a good clip of them. I actually think they're more built for a guard dominant league these days, maybe even more than they were back then. Remember, like, the argument is kind of always like, we never really got to see the Rockets and the Bulls play. and the argument's always like, who's going to stop Akeem, right? And more of a old school big man dominant era, you could say they had maybe a little bit of a weakness there. I think in today's game, I think they actually cause a lot of problems on both ends, and I think Scotty and Jordan translate pretty well defensively to today's game.
Yeah. So I'll let Rex get himself together, but I think they would do similarly as well, possibly better. And one of the teams that they always compare the Chicago Bulls to, specifically the '96 Bulls, is those Warriors teams that I think went to five finals in total in 7 years. And they say, well, who would have won? Would it be the KD Warriors or the Chicago Bulls? In my opinion, obviously there's a lot of dynamics involved with it, the rules and such like that. But to the point of it is that I think the Chicago Bulls at face value, I think they were more athletic. I think they had a better defensive team. That team was also the best defensive and offensive team in the league at that time. I think that they would have been able to beat them. And amongst the other teams during that time, the Heat, the Cavs, the Spurs, and the other teams that didn't make as many finals as those other teams, I think they would have matched up pretty well against them too. So for me, at face value, I think Michael Jordan would have won similarly as many championships or maybe more, just out of the pure athleticism and just how that talent was on that team at that time.
Yeah, real quick, in just regards to the matchups, I think the Bulls are a matchup nightmare for the Warriors. You put Pippen or Jordan on Klay Thompson. Maybe Curry still gets his. I don't know if, how do you want to play that defensively? Jordan would obviously guard Curry in the pivotal moments, right? I don't know if you'd start off with Jordan on Curry. So Curry might get 30, but come fourth quarter, Jordan's probably putting the clamps on him, or that's his main responsibility. You put Pippen on Klay Thompson. Draymond Green and Rodman, that's obviously, I think, an easy win for Rodman. I think that's a matchup nightmare for the Warriors, to be honest.
Absolutely. What do you say, Rex?
Well, I think actually that wouldn't be the matchup. I think what you would do is you'd put Jordan on Klay because Klay's a standstill shooter. So Jordan's not working as much on the defensive end, and Harper ends up playing more minutes going on Curry. Then I wouldn't have Rodman on Draymond. I'd have Pippen on Draymond. It'd be a tough matchup for Pippen. He'd get knocked around. It'd be physical, but you also got Draymond would be running a lot more. And I would have Rodman on KD. And he would just, I think, crush KD. Man, he would get KD so mentally out of his game, in my opinion.
I guess I wasn't counting KD. But yeah, you'd put, I think, yeah, you could see that. Yeah, I could see either of those going that way.
But to me, the second three-peat Bulls would be favored against any of the last 10 championship teams if they played. In my opinion, the guards were bigger. They had international players. They had Kukoc. They had Longley. So they've got the internet guys that you see. This is what you're not thinking about. Today's game is more the international style of ball. And the Bulls had some of the best international players of the day. If they played today, they play better. Kukoc would be a monster today.
I can see that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I want to backtrack to something not as serious. World War Flea said that he would take it easy on us after he dunked on us because he loves the rapport here and we're cool. Thank you, World War Flea. If you tried to dunk on me and I knew you were going to do it, I would just move out the way. Either way.
Yeah, my whole thing was just don't let him get by me. because I can't jump
Is
with
he
him.
saying he's going to dunk on me at 56, or is he saying he would have dunked on me when I was 21?
Oh man.
I know he probably could have dunked on me when I was 21, or me now being 36, at whatever age he is. But
Because at 21, I would have taken his legs out and watched him fall. I wouldn't have cared.
Oh my god! And that's why I never try to dunk on anybody.
Yeah, it's a dangerous proposition for a pickup game.
I am a product of my generation, okay? I grew up playing in the 70s and 80s. There were no flagrant fouls. So don't give me your whining and crying that I say I was going to knock someone on their butt. It was part of the game when I played.
Yeah. Lynch one says, what's up?
Oh, and I got hit many more times than I did hit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, Lynch one's been. I didn't mean to interrupt this story, but Lynch one's been talking about. Used to get in the games for free and used to watch Dr. J in the 70s ABA all the time. Used to play pickup with Denzel and NBA players all the time. So that's a great experience.
That's really cool if you got to see Dr. J.
Did he ever get to see Dr. J play at the Scope?
Or Rucker?
Yeah.
Because the Scope was just the most awesome place to see a basketball game. It is such a crime that their games were not televised.
He said, Lynch one says, I'm from the same hometown as Denzel. We all grew up in the playgrounds with NBA players.
I think
Denzel played basketball at Rutgers University, I believe.
He's from New Jersey, Philly, New York area?
Yeah.
Okay.
I still think my favorite picture of all time might be with Dr. J at, I think it was Rucker Park, and everyone's on the buildings, on the rooftops, all around him.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite basketball picture ever. Probably. I just think it's just like gives you goosebumps a little bit.
You know what's cool about that? My wife's family is from right around the corner.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, my wife's her mother's side, her father's side's Midland. Her mother's side are from Flatbush.
Okay. Lynch one says he went to Fordham University, Denzel.
Fordham, okay.
I don't know where that is, but
yeah, dude, I'm looking at some of these pictures now. It's just, man, it's so everyone's sitting on top of the fence. People are on the roof, man. Like, oh, dude, it's so cool looking.
Yeah, fire escapes, everything.
Yeah, no safety precautions were taken that day.
Yeah, you had like 12-year-olds just like standing on the ledge of the building like 10 stories high.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being Dr. J at that point in time? I mean, just the adrenaline rush that he must have gotten from being that guy, you know?
Very cool.
I mean, I couldn't get my own parents to go to one of my games, you know, and he sit there with people standing on rooftops.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mythos was almost bigger than the player. It's pretty cool.
And the thing that people don't understand is he used to play an inside game in the ABA. He moved to a perimeter game when he came to the NBA because they already had McGinnis. But in the ABA, Dr. J played like a power forward type position.
Yeah.
You know, he posted up. He got all kinds of dunks. I think he averaged like 15 rebounds a game his rookie year in the ABA. I mean, he played down low.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, because back then, rebounds was a man's thing. If to get respect on a court, you grab the tough rebound. That's how Moses made his bread. And no one ever called Moses soft, ever. And it's because he got the rebounds.
Mm-hmm.
When you're that guy, you don't have to do any trash talking.
Yeah.
Everyone knows not only who you are, but they know what you are.
Lynch One says, I used to play with Earl Tatum, Rodney McRae, Scooter McRae, my cousin Gus, and Ray Williams.
I think my grandpa played against his name is slipping my mind right now. Oh man. Come back to me. He played against someone real good back in the day and it's slipping my mind.
I interviewed one of my dad's old friends who played on Stanford when I guess Kareem went there, and I guess he said that and he was playing, I guess, and they ended up beating that team, the Stanford team, he says. But he said he played against Kareem back in the day. But he was on the freshman team at the time. He didn't actually play in that game, he said. But
I've played with one or two guys.
I've played against one pro that I know of, but he was an overseas pro. He was an Australian pro, and I think I was 25 and he was 40. And this
What
guy
was his name?
I don't know. I have no idea. He was I don't want to say too much about what he does. So, but anyway, I was playing against him, and he just was making all these jump shots, just like half court jump shots, and he was just going, and nobody could stop him. But I was so happy because he decided to go under the basket, and I had switched with him, and he tried to pump fake me, and I just stood there because I never bite. Like I'd rather you score on me instead of me get off my feet. I'm not good enough to really tell the difference all the time when to do it.
Yeah.
So so he tried to pump fake me, and then I blocked him, and then he got really mad at me, and I was just I was like, well, I guess I blocked a pro, but
you're like, I'm out of here later. I gotta go home.
I gotta go tell the world. I gotta go tell someone on a podcast 15 years later.
Yeah.
Can I ask one question?
What's up?
Was his first name Phil?
Dude, I have no idea, man. I don't think I ever even knew his name. I just knew what he did. And but yeah, no. He was a white guy, he had brown hair, probably about 5'10".
Sounds like Phil.
Well, it might have been him. Oh, actually, I forgot you live you're around that area, so
Phil, he was like MVP of the league. He's 5'10", 5'11", 160, 3-point shooter. Super, super quick. He's like a white, fundamental Allen Iverson.
yeah, this guy, it was crazy. He just could not miss. Like, I've played enough to see good, quote unquote, 3-point shooters. This guy, I seriously don't think he missed one shot. It was crazy.
Well, if YouTube Phil Smythe, Smythe.
Let me see.
That guy could have played in the NBA. He could have. He was just
Australian?
He was something.
No, it definitely was. I don't know. No, this guy wasn't bald. No, it wasn't this guy.
That's funny.
But yeah, no, it was no, but that guy was I was probably the best player I've played against that I can think of. And I played against some taller guys. I don't think I've played anybody that was over 6'9". And then all I would do whenever I matched up against them, because it would be pickup, because I never played any quote unquote serious basketball. But
I've played against a
I would
lot
just
of
try to
college
keep them out
talent.
of the paint.
I'm not sure. I think maybe one guy got on a practice squad once that I knew and played against, but I've seen a lot of good college talent, I would say, up close. It's crazy to think about what like running on an NBA court would be like with some of those guys. It's just can't really. It's hard to fathom, really.
Yeah.
Greyhound. The two things you notice is just the outright speed and the smoothness of
Yeah.
everything they do. Everything they do is just almost like ballet. It's just so smooth, and the coordination and the speed. It's just another.
Yeah, you're right. I mean,
And
their one step is your three steps. You know, like it's hard to like if you haven't ever seen it up close, it's really hard to fathom. And we're talking about just like these are just kind of okay college guys I played against. NBA must be just unreasonable. I can't even really comprehend it.
Well, I was in a pickup game at George Mason University, and the Redskins were there. It was during the strike in '87, and I found myself first covering Art Monk, and that was kind of
Wow.
Wow, that was
Yeah,
just
wow.
watching him run down the court. It's just like a gazelle. I mean, just so smooth. And then he catches a pass with one hand and goes and finger rolls it in. It's like, this guy is an all-time great NFL receiver, but you watch him play, it's like, if he had really wanted to, this dude could have been in the NBA.
I have to piggyback that real quick because the best talent I ever saw was Arian Foster, who was a running back for the Texans for like 5-6 years or something. He had a couple really good years there. And I played pickup with him and some of his buddies 5-on-5. And man, I remember I was maybe like out at the wing, like ready to transition, run down court on offense. And he was kind of on the block behind me, And I remember I'm turning to go, just to see where everyone's at. And I'm running. And I mean, it like I turn around and Arian Foster's already ahead of me. And it's just, when you see these guys run in the open floor, it's really like gazelle is what made me think of that story. Like they are just, it's gliding. Like it's really hard to fathom. It's like 3 strides and he's from basket to basket, right? I just remember thinking it's just incredible.
It's very intimidating.
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
The just effortless nature of it, and then you throw him a pass, and like I remember throwing what was his name? Dang it! The guy played for the Bullets in the Milwaukee Bucks. He was a bench player, but he was scoring off Don Collins. Don Collins came up to the court that I first started playing on. He was about 6'6", swingman. Played in the NBA for I think like 6 to 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I threw a pass that was just god awful. I mean, I'm like 16, and I throw a bad pass, and he just grabs it like an NFL wide receiver. He just like turns his body, reaches back behind him, grabs it one-handed, turns around and then dunks it on the other side of the basket, all in like one motion. His momentum just stayed the same. And it was just like, oh, okay. It's like, now I understand the difference. Now I know what I'm working towards.
Yeah. It's very humbling too. Like, I'm just an average guy. I'm good at basketball, but I'm just an average guy. Like, these guys are maybe even not as good at basketball as you, but they're just in another universe athletically.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why since about 1985, I have not believed in the whole, guys from the 50s and 60s couldn't play today. Because I played on a court in Virginia it was Christmas break for all the colleges, but it was really warm. It was crazy warm. It was like 70 degrees. And I went up to the court thinking it's Christmas afternoon. No one's going to be there. I can just get a private workout in. And I see as soon as I get to the park, there's like 40 guys at the court. And it's because all the college players were home for Christmas and the NBA guys. So there were 2 bullets there. David Robinson was there. You had 2 brothers that went to my high school that were the starting backcourt for Middle Tennessee State. I mean, it was just, you had a guy that had won his team, Shenandoah College, had just won the NAIA National Championship. I can't think, Demetrius Winston was his name. And he was like a pint-sized Moses Malone. He was like 6'2", but played just like Moses. You had Corky Sims, who had a 4-foot vertical leap and was a state high jump champion. Who else was there? You had a guy named Wayne that had been on the Marine Corps team. Medina Dixon was there, female, that was actually an All-American for Old Dominion, won the national championship, then was a gold medalist in the '84 Olympics. She was there. And we all got smoked by a 40-something-year-old in slacks and borrowed tennis shoes. And I found out later it was Wayne Chapman, who was a bench player in the ABA for a decade and is Rex Chapman's father. And he schooled everybody there. It was just no wasted motion.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was no wasted motion, just simple. Whenever he made a dribble, it had a point to it. There was no wasted dribbles, no wasted time, no standing still with the ball. If he grabbed a rebound, it was turn and outlet and down the court. In 1 second, it was grab, turn, pass, down, and you're going. Every rebound was two-handed. Every pass was a two-handed chest pass or bounce pass. Every shot was uncontested. If he was covered, he didn't pass it. He didn't shoot it. He passed it. It was just fundamentals like you would not believe. No physical errors. And he just dominated everybody with just simple, fundamental execution. And every time I hear people say, oh, guys from the 50s couldn't play today, I can tell you that's garbage.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Hey, y'all. I'm gonna cut it off. I'm gonna go spend some time with my family. But
Yeah,
it was
absolutely,
great.
man.
Yeah, it was great chatting with you guys. Live chat. Thank you for participating. Next time, if you'd like to call in, you're welcome to call in. If you don't know who Nick is, check out his channel, NNB Sports. He's got a lot of great stuff on there. And Rex, thank you as always. I hope your wife's not that mad at you. But
did you hear him? Oh, okay. Well, since she's here, did you or did you not spend your summers down the street from Rucker Park?
Yes.
Did you hear it?
Confirmed. Yeah, we heard it.
the world heard it. Tim Nick is taking shots at you, but let's leave that for another day.
Well, what's he saying?
He called you Mr. Nostalgic back in the 50s.
Yep, absolutely.
Anyway, thank you all for coming. And until next time, just to give you a heads up, Thursday I will it's Thanksgiving, so no show. Sunday I'll be traveling. If Rex and Nick and whoever else or live chat, if you wanted to come, I may do one later on in the evening, but in the morning I'll be traveling. But I also am not sure if I'll feel up to it. I got a 5 or 6 hour drive, so I probably will not do it. So, but
okay,
just maybe.
I guess that means Nick.
Yeah.
You Gotta let Rex on your show.
Yeah, we
Okay,
can set something up.
Gotta
We'll
do a live chat on the old NMB, I guess.
Yeah, I might not be home till later in the afternoon, but yeah, I'm open to it.
All righty. Darn it! I actually had something of actual circumstance to say, and now I lost it when you were saying your schedule. I'm sorry.
No, my bad.
I'll remember it for next time. Oh, at some point, you guys do need to. When it gets closer, and I know when I'm coming to Texas, y'all are going to have to email me. Let me know where you're at, so we can try and get something together and have
That'd
the
be
cameras
awesome.
rolling so everyone can laugh at us.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Because I know I can't even play anymore with my back,
We'll play
but
some horse.
it'll be fun.
Yeah. And for
Maybe
everyone,
I can do a tutorial or something. I can show you the stuff that when I tell you about. On a court, we can actually go on a court and I can show you what I mean so you can understand I'm not full of it.
absolutely. And for everyone, Michael Jordan fans are the best.